Weilà raga, come state ragazzi? Benvenuti in questo nuovo video. Allora, oggi, come sempre, facciamo un video bilingue. Vedremo però se vi parlerò un po' di più in italiano o in inglese oggi. Tutto dipende a volte, non è una cosa che posso veramente decidere perché come insegnante ho sempre voglia di descrivere qualcosa. Quindi quando vi dico qualcosa in inglese la voglio tradurre in italiano, anche viceversa. Quindi è più forte di me. Eccovi, eccovi. È più forte di me e la voglio spiegare. Ve la voglio spiegare, ok? È più forte di me vuol dire like it's greater than I am. I just can't help it. It's like it's stronger than I am, diciamo. È più forte di me. Quindi anche nel mentre vi sto spiegando che è più forte di me, che devo assolutamente spiegarvi qualcosa, vi spiego quello, cioè, I have to say it in English now. So, as I'm making this video, talking about, all right, I want it to be bilingual, but I never really know if it's going to end up more in Italian or more in English, because I just go wherever my will takes me, wherever the topic takes me. And sometimes it takes me in more of an English way, sometimes more Italian. But what always ends up happening inevitably is that I come across a word or expression that I just have to explain. I have to explain it in Italian or in English. And I was just saying it is like greater than I am, è più forte di me. It's something I just can't help but do. So I'm explaining to you this thing, this problem, if you will, of me having to explain everything. And then I'm explaining the fact of having to explain everything. Does that make sense? Wow, there you go, guys. Eccovi qua. There you go, eccovi qua. Per questo mi piace molto fare i video in modo bilingue perché è comodo, mi è molto comodo. It's very comfortable for me. Mi è molto comodo. Sono veramente a mio agio quando lo faccio. Essere al proprio agio è un altro modo per dire to be comfortable. Like when you're emotionally comfortable, like not you're sitting on a couch comfortable. The and not a, when I say emotional, I'm not talking about someone is crying, not that kind of emotional. So when I'm saying you are emotionally comfortable, it also doesn't mean a romantic sense of comfort. So it's not romance and it's not sadness. I'm talking purely about feelings. You know, when you are feeling emotionally comfortable in your mind, that is when we say essere al proprio agio. Io sono a mio agio. I am comfortable. Sono a mio agio. So yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Because then I start explaining and then I don't even know what I'm talking about. Ah, mamma mia, la gioia. È una gioia, devo dirvi, ragazzi. It is a joy. È una gioia fare questi video. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what I was saying. It is a joy to make these videos, first and foremost, but I'm most comfortable when I do things in a bilingual way. Per me è bello perché mi sento molto libero. È così liberante potersi esprimere in più di una lingua, particolarmente se ti piace parlare le lingue. Cioè, se è una cosa che ti porta gioia, come è per me, è bello. Però adesso è importante voltare pagina. It's time to turn the page. È importante adesso voltare pagina e iniziamo a parlare dell'argomento del video. Cosa si può fare quando o hai paura di parlare un'altra lingua davanti a un madrelingua o davanti agli altri? E numero due, quando un italiano o un madrelingua in generale, però è importante nominare gli italiani perché è un aspetto degli italiani che ti correggono se sbagli, quando parli, se ti sbagli, come approcciare quella situazione, come vederla, come capirla. Quindi anche se ci saranno degli italiani che mi stanno guardando, è più probabile che un italiano ti correggerà, o sì, ti correggerà. Io correggo, tu correggi, lui le corregge. Sì, ti correggerà quando parli italiano che un americano. Normalmente non è una cosa che gli americani fanno spesso, è più una cosa che gli italiani fanno e non è per dire che è nulla negativo, anzi, a me piace. Io direi che la maggior parte degli studenti di italiano ti diranno è bello che gli italiani ti correggono perché ti vogliono aiutare e ti puoi migliorare poi. Se ti sbagli sempre, se dici sempre una cosa in modo sbagliato, non è giusto. Cioè è buono che qualcuno te lo dica, è importante che qualcuno te lo dica. Però come ogni cosa dipende come viene fatto. Se è fatto in modo punitivo, se si può dire, sounds like punitive. I don't know if it works, but like they're punishing you. Se sembra che qualcuno ti stia indicando con il dito, non si dice, allora in quel modo magari può far sentire uno piccolo e poi può creare della timidezza. Quindi è meglio sempre procedere con un po' di delicatezza, ma allo stesso tempo non possiamo neanche nascondere il fatto che qualcosa sia sbagliato, cioè se è sbagliato, parliamoci chiaro. Però è anche importante trattare la situazione con la giusta delicatezza, particolarmente se non hai un buon rapporto con la persona. So let me do some translating into English because I'm just rolling with Italian today, and I would like it if I could do a little bit of both. So I was telling you guys how it feels very freeing to be able to speak in whatever language I want. This was something I really admired when I went to Montreal in Canada. It's located in the province of Quebec, and Quebec is the French-speaking province of Canada. And even though Montreal is a French city, it is largely viewed as a bilingual city. They even greet you in stores by saying bonjour, hi, or bonjour, hello, which is like saying buongiorno, hello, to communicate to you, okay, I'm bilingual, I can speak in whatever language you want. And for me, I remember the first time I went there many years ago, I was like, this is a bilingual paradise because I can just speak franglais. Franglais is like Italish, Ital-English, right? Englishian, I don't know what it's usually like Italish, we say. A combination of Italian and English. You can speak franglais, which is French and English, a combo. It's so much fun to just weave in and out of both languages and not feel like you have to just be in one language, which is something that happens for a lot of students of Italian. Like when you're first starting out, you think you have to translate everything. And you may ask someone, oh, how do you say the word privacy in Italian? And they tell you, privacy. How do you say performance? Performance. And you're like, wait a second. Are we speaking Italian or English with an Italian accent, you know? How about computer? Computer. What about a stop sign? I bet it says like ferma or something in Italy. No, it's a stop. Allo stop. You're going to go to lo stop. Whereas if you're in Quebec, you go to the, or it's called the arrête. Arrête, it says, for stop. They have it translated into French. That also happens, though, just as a total side note. I know I'm going off about Montreal, but if you want to know about it, hear me out. They translate most things into French. Whereas you go to France and they'll use certain English words for stuff with a French accent. They'll do like the Italians. But in Quebec, there is more of a push to translate everything. I love these little things. You know, the more that you study languages, you really learn about how things are in different parts of the world and even within the same language space. So French in Quebec is different from French in France. It's like talking about English in the US and English in the UK. It's not a perfect comparison, but ci siamo capiti, like we get each other, we understand where we're going with this topic. There are different ways of saying things, different accent, pronunciation, figures of speech. And it's just cool to see that within the same linguistic family, there can be differences. Whereas with Italy, we're always then honing into regions and dialects, and we start talking about that, but it's always the country of Italy. So even culturally, we're talking about Italians. When you learn English, that's not always the case. An Italian learning English has to wrestle with the American mentality and the British mentality. Or if they're going to then another English-speaking country, let's say they go to Ireland, the Irish mentality. They go to Canada, the Canadian mentality. So yeah, sure, there's an overarching Anglo, former colony of Great Britain kind of way of doing things, but it's still a different country, So back to my point, what I was going to translate, which I don't remember what I was going to say. But I want to talk about being corrected. Oh, yes, that's what it was. Italians are more likely to correct your Italian than, let's say, an American would do for an Italian's English. So let's say that in a much simpler way. An Italian is more likely to correct an American when that American is speaking Italian than the other way around. That's the easiest way to say it. È il modo più semplice per dirlo. But I wouldn't say that that's a negative thing. It always depends on how it's delivered, you know? You can deliver bad news to someone, but do it in a gentle way where it doesn't feel like you just got hit by a ton of bricks, you know? Or same thing with really good news. Someone may say to you, "Why are you not excited about this? You're talking about something so great, so peacefully. That's weird." You know, everything's about delivery. So delivery is important because you never want to intimidate someone or kind of wag the finger at them, you know? Indicare con il dito. Indicare con il dito. Indicare is to point, and this is called the indice, your index finger. Ever think about that? L'indice, to indicate, is to point out. Hey, cool stuff, right? Torniamo all'italiano per un momento. Quindi sì, è importante trattare la situazione con delicatezza. It's important to handle it with some, not delicacy. I guess you could say that in English, but delicacy is like a food. It's to handle it delicately. Ecco. In modo delicato. Quindi sì, però che cosa possiamo fare noi come americani, noi come studenti di italiano, quando un italiano ci corregge, ci interrompe o ci dice no, non si dice così? O anche non in modo particolarmente diretto. Può essere che non trovi la parola e interviene il tuo interlocutore e ti fornisce la parola. Anche così può capitare. Vi dico questo, non c'è problema. Non te la prendere per niente. Don't take it the wrong way. Non te la prendere. Don't take it the wrong way. Don't get mad at it, by it. Non te la prendere. È una cosa positiva. Come vi ho già detto 1000 volte, as I have already mentioned 1,000,000 times at this point, 1,000 times at this point, come vi ho già detto 1000 volte, ovviamente dipende da come qualcuno te lo dice. It depends how somebody says it to you. Però, adesso voltiamo pagina ancora una volta e vi porto avanti in un'altra direzione, ma sempre in tema, like we're always going to be on theme here. Però vi porterò in una direzione un po' diversa. Se voi state online sui social, come Instagram ad esempio, se siete come me, troverete dei video in cui ci sono delle persone che parlano del fatto che quando viaggiano e usano una lingua come francese, sempre per parlare un po' di francese, se vanno a Parigi e vogliono ordinare, e anche in perfetto francese, spesso uno che lavora in un bar, in un negozio lì a Parigi, gli risponde, quindi risponde a lui, o le risponde a lei, in inglese. E ci sono sempre questi clip di ragazzi che dicono: "Cosa? Sto parlando in francese, perché mi ha risposto in inglese?" E voglio menzionare, cioè voglio soffermarmi un attimo su questo. I want to dwell on this for a moment. Non succede per forza in Italia, ok? Quindi sì, forse non ha a che fare granché con noi studenti di italiano. So it probably doesn't have much to do with us students of Italian, okay? I don't think this really happens that much in Italy. It can happen, but it's a little less likely in Italy. Usually they're happy when you speak Italian. Di solito gli italiani sono felici quando parli in italiano. E poi molti dicono: "No, ma io non parlo così bene, loro stanno parlando così velocemente." You know that problem where like you say a few words and then the Italian comes back at you with so much so quickly and you're like, "Oh man, slow down. I speak Italian, but not that much." That can happen for a lot of students of Italian. But that's a good thing. That means they want to welcome you into the fold, you know? But the reason why I bring this up, this story of like going to Paris and you order something in French and you say it correctly, but the person behind the counter at the bar or the restaurant or the shop speaks to you in English. even though it speaks to something a lot of people experience, it happened to me. It actually happened to me only in Montreal. That happened to me. I remember I was in a restaurant and I wanted to ask the question of something in French, and the waitress came back to me in English. And I was so upset that she Englished me, as I was calling it, that when she came back to the table to see how the meal was, I gave her this whole monologue in perfect French on why I liked the dish and whatever. And then she was like, "Oh, mais tu parles très bien français, wow." I'm like, "That's damn right." Damn right I do. She was saying, "Wow, ma parli bene francese." I'm like, "Yeah, if you just gave me a chance." But the thing to really say about it, right? Like beneath the surface, if we go for a minute, sotto la superficie, if we go for a minute under the surface, sotto la superficie, when you're in a bar or a restaurant, they're doing their job. Their job is to get you what you need, to serve you. They may not necessarily be there with the intention of helping you practice your language skills, even though probably there's a level of understanding if you're in a big city like Rome or Paris that you're going to be faced with tourists. It's not like the first thing that's coming to mind, like, hey, let me go get a job in a coffee shop because I want to work with tourists. It's not like getting a job in Disney World. You know what I'm saying? So what I would say, if you keep that in mind, you actually won't have perhaps as strong of a reaction as I did in that Montréalais restaurant, in that Restaurant Montréalais, in that Montrealan restaurant, where I was like, I'm going to show you. It's a little bit misplaced because it's like she's just trying to do her job, and if she can communicate to you in English and you're evidently struggling, like let's just carry on with our transaction, you know? We're here just to communicate. And that hit me one time, mi ha colpito. Mi ha colpito, it hit me one time. Like it finally clicked in my head is what I'm trying to get at. It finally made sense. Mi è stato chiaro. When one time I went to the doctor in Italy. And obviously when you have to use Italian in a technical sense, in maybe a situation that you've never really had to use Italian in before, or any language, so having to describe certain symptoms, I was not very familiar with all the terms right off the top of my head. I could kind of explain around the point, but I couldn't tell you the medical term for what I was experiencing. And so I remember in that situation, the doctor used English to communicate with me. And it was in that moment that somehow, you know, certi momenti nella vita ci aiutano e non c'è un perché. Non c'è un perché. There's like real no reason. There's no why. There's no like concrete reason why, but certain things just, they make everything make sense. And I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. It was in that very moment that I understood this person is using English simply as a means of communication, which is so different from what drives me to study a language. Io sono motivato per l'amore delle lingue, per la passione. So I'm motivated, I'm driven by a passion, a love for languages. I study Italian because I want to. I've created a life where I actually have to use it. I'd have to change a number of things, including my job. If I didn't want to use Italian anymore in my daily life, I'd have to change my friends, I'd have to change family. I mean, I'd have to have a whole new identity. But even like a language such as French, which I've been talking quite a bit about today, I don't have to use French in my daily life. I don't have to talk to people in French. I choose to. And so, like many of these people that are going to Paris or going to Italy and they want to use their language skills with the people of first impact, right? I call them the linguistic and cultural first responders. They are the people that you see immediately. It's the people in all of these jobs. It's the Uber driver, the taxi driver, the person at the front desk at the hotel, the person in the bar, in the coffee shop, in the restaurant, the person at the museum and the ticket booth. These are your linguistic and cultural first responders. So many of us make judgment calls and determinations as to what the people are like in that city, how the people treated me in that country, based on these interactions. But if we put it into the context that I've been discussing today about, well, it's not like you're going to a language school. You're not in an environment, I'm arguing, I could be wrong, but I'm arguing my point of view is that it's not like you're at a language school. You're not at a language conference. You're not in a setting where like-minded people about languages are coming together, and that's why they're using them. You're now entering just straight up society where you're just using language as a means to communicate. And for whatever reason, at that doctor's appointment, it all fell into place. It just clicked in my head. Mi ha colpito, that's the word I'm using in Italian. It just hit me. It struck me. Yeah, because it kind of hits you like a ton of bricks. When we say that, when you have a realization, it just hit me in that moment. His English was passable. It got the job done. We had a successful office visit. But I realized he's not trying to use English to sound like an American, to embody an American because he's thinking about the American culture. Like me, because when I'm speaking Italian, I'm trying to become Italian. I'm keeping in mind how they talk to one another, what's normal in their country. But I don't think he was considering that because he just had a job to do. I've got a patient, their first language is in Italian. They don't know how to say certain things about their symptoms. I know some English. Let's just get this transaction done. E lì per lì ho capito tutto. Lì per lì is kind of like a way of saying, then in that moment. It literally means therefore there. But in this context, when we say like, e lì per lì ho capito tutto, it just means, and it was there in that very moment. That's what it means effectively. Lì per lì in quel momento ho capito tutto. Mi è stato tutto più chiaro. Everything was clear to me in that moment. So what does this all have to do with being corrected? L'idea è questa. The idea is this. Even when you're corrected, think about the source. That's really what we're talking about at the heart of this. Now, I wasn't corrected in that situation, right? In this doctor's office situation. I wasn't actually even corrected in that situation in Montreal. Instead, someone just Englished me. They just pushed forward with English. But that was one instance. Sure, it's the instance that sticks out in my mind, but I used French the whole rest of the time I was there. The only time I used English was when I went to Starbucks. Because I remember I walked up to the girl behind the counter. I said, look, I'm not even going to try to say the order in French because it's very specific. And I don't know how you do sizes here. I don't know. I don't know how to say unsweetened. I don't know how to do any of that. And that was a funny moment. And I was able to do that in English, no problem, and I was okay with it. Otherwise, I wanted to speak French everywhere I went. And then all the times I've been to France, all the times I've been to Paris, I've never been corrected. I've had full conversations in French. It's all been peachy keen, if you will. So everyone has a different experience. But even if I were to be corrected, right? Maybe it's just someone trying to do their job. Maybe they're just Englishing you because they had a long day. They've seen a lot of clienti, a lot of customers. Maybe they don't care about languages. Maybe they're not someone who's studied languages. They studied it in school as an obbligo, as an obligation. They just had to. Like this doctor. I'm making an assumption, obviously, but maybe he doesn't care about English, but he knows it just because it exists. He studied it in school, and it can help him in his job a little bit. But it's not like he's passando. Non è che sta passando. Non è che stia passando. It's not like he's spending every day thinking about, how can I get better in English? I can't wait to travel to the US or to England or something. So also consider the source. And that's why I'm saying non te la prendere. Like, don't take it to heart. Don't take it that seriously, because it's not that serious. And one of my students famously said, because I say it to everybody, to speak another language, you have to be willing to make a fool of yourself. And it doesn't mean you will, but it means you have to be willing to. You have to let go of those things that are holding you back. It's okay. No one's going to laugh at you, and if they do, who cares? That's not a person for you. Consider the source. Maybe that's not your people. It's not your kind of person. And that's okay. So you have to be at least willing to make a fool of yourself. And one of the things that I always remind myself when I'm in a different country, sometimes I won't speak up, or sometimes I won't put myself in a situation where I have to kind of claim my space, if you will. Because maybe you want to be super polite. I'm not saying you're being mean by claiming your space, but I've noticed in Italy, culturally, you have to be your biggest advocate. I think there's a cultural difference there where sometimes in America, this depends on the person too, but I think sometimes in the US, we are just sort of like, no, they'll come, like the waiter will come back, or no, they'll get it done. I'll give them a week. Maybe they just haven't read their email yet. You know, we do a lot of this assuming, I've noticed. Now, obviously, that can happen in Italy too, but I've noticed it happens more in the US than in Italy. It feels like an Italian is much more comfortable, è molto al suo agio. I think it's just a suo agio, not al. È molto a suo agio. Or maybe it is al, and when we're speaking quickly, you can't hear the L. Could be that. È molto a suo agio. I'm going to go with that, just the a. They're much more comfortable. They're much more at ease with speaking up and being like, hey, I just want to follow up, or, you know, whatever. Because I almost feel like the way I interpret it is that the Italian is thinking, there's no harm in asking. If someone tells me, no, you can't do this, then I have a clear communication. I now know my boundary. But until someone sets that boundary, why should I assume what it is? That's how I interpret it. And that has been really helpful for me to further learn come integrarmi nella società italiana, how to further integrate myself into Italian life and be Italian. It's one thing to speak a language, but it's another thing to really take on these learned behaviors, these traits, to do as you see. That's what we do as small children. We are products of our environment because we're observing and, you know, what is the expression? Monkey see, monkey do, right? Like what we see is what we reproduce. We're going off of modeled behavior. And so even as adults, we can default to that very human way of doing things. If you're in a room full of laughing people, you're going to feel joyous. If you're in a room full of crying people, you're probably not going to feel happy. I think you'll feel sad and may even shed a tear also. Because it's just, we're empathetic, you know? We vibe off of other people. So do the same thing with these behaviors, like observe and try it out. See if it then works. And so I've learned when I'm in Italy, I call it claiming your space. You got to speak up. You don't expect people to just know or to be considering you. And in a way, I've learned to do that then in the US too. I've learned to be more forthright. I've learned to be like, no, it's okay to follow up, because we have an expression in English. I don't know it perfectly, but it's something like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Something to that effect. And that, it speaks to me, man. It's like, yeah, if you're not on it, it's easy to kind of get sort of pushed to the sidelines, if you will, you know? So I hope that all makes sense. I hope you caught my drift and you kind of follow where I'm going with this. The synthesis of it all is, don't worry about it. Go out there, have fun, speak, be free, just like I like to do in un modo bilingue. Just as I like to do with making these bilingual videos and speaking in a bilingual way. It feels so freeing for me because I can speak exactly the way I want. And that is the feeling I'm going to leave you guys on today. All right, I'm going to leave you with today. So thank you guys, as always, for checking out this video. Always remember to spread the love, and I'll catch you guys next time. Sound good? Ciao ragazzi, alla prossima. Ciao.